Hello and greetings from the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Little Flower in San Antonio, Texas. We thank you for joining us for day 4 of our novena of reflections in preparation for the feast day of St. Thérèse on October 1st. We are looking at various themes and elements in the little way of St. Thérèse. Our theme for today is learning to see God's will in the ordinary. Yesterday we heard how St. Thérèse said that she had the eyes and the heart of an eagle, and yet she experienced herself as being like a little bird without feathers, that she could not soar like an eagle by doing bold deeds, the deeds that she read about in the lives of the saints, such as St. Joan of Arc. But she came to accept this littleness, this poverty, this weakness in herself, and learned that God accepted her in her littleness and desired her to come to him in her littleness. And so this led her to realize that Jesus was asking her to show his love for him, not by doing heroic deeds like some of his saints, but that he was calling her to love him by showing her love for him by fulfilling his will for her as it was manifested in the ordinary circumstances of everyday life. He led her to come to appreciate each person, each day, each circumstance as a gift from him, and to respond to this will of his for her with acceptance, with love, with gratitude, and to see each moment as an opportunity to prove her love for him by loving the people that he had placed in her life, by asking her to respond to the circumstances that he had provided and sent her way in her life. And St. Therese's famous saying that everything is a grace came precisely from learning to see God's will in every circumstance. As St. Thérèse was suffering from tuberculosis, she knew that she was dying, and she was suffering tremendously in the infirmary of the monastery. And one of the sisters had asked her, would you like to die, immediately after having received the last sacraments? And St. Thérèse responded, no. She said at one point to one of her sisters, if you find me dead one morning, don't be troubled. It is because Papa, God, will have come to get me. Without a doubt, it's a great grace to receive the sacraments. But when God doesn't allow it, it's good just the same. Everything is a grace. So she learned to be able to recognize God's will in every circumstance, no matter what, and to learn to see things as God sees them, not as human beings see them. And so St. Thérèse realized that each day, each circumstance was an opportunity to fulfill God's will, and that was how she would show her love for him. And she realized that each day provided this opportunity, and that she had to take advantage of each day that God gave her. She wrote a poem once called My Song for Today, and in that poem she writes, my life is but an instant, a passing hour. My life is but a day that escapes and flies away. Oh my God, you know that to love you on earth, I only have today. Oh, I love you, Jesus, my soul yearns for you. For just one day remain my sweet support. Come, reign in my heart. Give me your smile, just for today. Lord, what does it matter if the future is gloomy? To pray for tomorrow, oh no, I cannot. Keep my heart pure. Cover me with your shadow, just for today. If I think about tomorrow, I fear my fickleness. I feel sadness and worry rising up in my heart. But I'm willing, my God, to accept trial and suffering just for today. So just taking one day at a time, recognizing that God is present in the present moment, loving us in the present moment, and that he calls us to love him in the present moment. And so this is how Saint Thérèse lived, by faith and by trust. She used the image of an unpetaled rose for herself, that all her little actions that she did in her day-to-day life were like rose petals that she wanted to scatter before the feet of Jesus, to sweeten his path as he walked. She didn't want to be a beautiful rose on an altar, but to spend herself generously casting these rose petals before the Lord. And this she did in faith. And so she describes, finally, I'd like to share a dream that she describes, that she shares with her sisters in the story of a soul. She had a dream in which appeared to her Venerable Anne of Jesus, the foundress of the Discalced Carmelite nuns in France. Venerable Anne was a friend of St. John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Jesus. And so St. Thérèse in this dream asks Venerable Anne of Jesus, Mother, tell me further, if God is not asking something more of me than my poor little actions and desires, is he content with me? The saint's face took on an expression incomparably more tender than the first time she spoke to me. Her look and her caresses were the sweetest of answers. However, she said to me, God asks no other thing from you. He is content, very content. So this was confirmation for Saint Thérèse that her little way of performing these actions of ordinary life with heroically extraordinary generosity of spirit and love was the way that she was fulfilling God's will for her, and that this was the way that God had chosen for her to become a saint. And so may God help us to recognize his will and his presence in the ordinary circumstances of our day-to-day life, and to recognize that he is calling us not always to show our love by extraordinary deeds, but by fulfilling his will for us just for today.